As I mentioned at the very beginning of Mass, every year we segue into a new liturgical year. We conclude the current year with this solemnity of Christ the King. And pretty much every year when on this feast day, I always like to say that, when you look at the pages of history, contain the accounts of many kings, many rulers, many emperors, and all their accolades, right? There have been kings, there have been rulers that have been able to build up large empires, amassed vast riches, have tremendous military might, and so on and so forth, yet none of them holds a place in history like Jesus Christ the King does. None of them has marked history like Jesus Christ the King has. We refer to history by way of Jesus. BC, before Christ, AD, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Nobody's had that impact. Why does Jesus have it? Well, it's simple. It's really all about his kingdom. It's a different type of kingdom. We look at the life of Jesus, he never traveled outside that little enclave there, right, what is now largely Israel. He never had a great army. He certainly didn't have great resources. But his kingdom is not a kingdom of any of that stuff. As the gospel very well describes, it's a kingdom of life. Life. Giving life. And in particular, giving life to the dead or the nearly dead. Right? I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was sick, and you visited me, and so on and so forth. Jesus' kingdom is all about raising people up. It's people-oriented. It doesn't use people to achieve an ulterior motive, but it's directed at giving life to people, and very especially to those most in need. And, that's the criteria that we are called to live our lives by. It's the criteria that we will be judged by. In the end, we are, right? We're at the end of this year, the end of our lives. That's the only thing that's really going to matter. The Lord is not going to ask us, I say this often, the Lord is not going to ask us about all our successes or where we went to school or, how much is in our trust or, what we did with this or with that. It's not about success. It's not about popularity. It's about life. We're going to be asked about how much life we gave. How were we able throughout our lives to raise people up? I'll never forget, I would say some 12 years ago or so, I was in Madrid with my mom, sister, friend of the family, and we went to eat at this wonderful little place. We had never been there before. The food was spectacular. But the best thing about the evening was, good as the food was not the food. It was the guy who owned the place. He was something else. I've never forgotten that man. He was so intent in lifting the spirits of everybody that walked through those doors that it was a sight to see. He would greet you at the door. He'd walk you to the table. He'd hand you the menus. And by the way, it wasn't like it was a one-man operation. He had a lot of other people there, but he was very, very hands-on. And he was on top of everything. He'd come out every now and then. He'd ask you, how How do you feel? How do you like this? How do you like that? And he wasn't just doing it with us, he was doing it with everybody. The guy had such enormous energy, such enormous life within him. And there was a moment I'll never forget where he walked out of that kitchen with like 3-4 plates in his arms. And he was moving so quickly that he tripped over himself. The plates went flying, the food went flying, and he fell face first in front of the bar. You know, there was a collective gasp in the restaurant. And before anybody could even get up, the guy just got up. He jumped up to his feet and he laughed out loud tremendously. Went around the bar, disappeared, got up with multiple towels in his hand. And before help could come to clean up the mess, he had cleaned it all up, taken it back to the kitchen. I thought to myself, my God, this guy's the Energizer Bunny. Well, when the evening ended, we paid the bill, you know, he not only walked us to the door, but he began to walk us down the sidewalk. Didn't go too far. And I told him, he said, well, I hope you really enjoyed this. I said to the guy, I said, listen, I said, it was a fantastic evening. The food was phenomenal, the ambience was phenomenal, but I told him, I said, listen, the best thing about this experience was you. What you bring to this is tremendous. And he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, I adore what I do. I adore what I do. I said, well, it shows. And I walked a little farther, and he called me back, and he said, hey, and he said this like only a Spaniard could say it. He said to me, macho, el amor es la energía que mueve al mundo. Bud, love is the energy that moves the world. He got it. He understood God's kingdom. I've gone back through the years, and, you know, he doesn't have quite the same energy level, but the same love is still there. May we discover that love all the more. May we understand it. May we integrate it. May we celebrate it. And certainly, may we cherish it. And we'll find that our King will continue to raise us up in the life of his kingdom.